Celeb Savant is a career retrospective type interview focusing on singers, actors, and industry experts. Join Barrett Edelstein now as he dives into the entertainment world.
Tierz is a London-based hip-hop artist. Rising up through the ranks with his phenomenal talent and mastery of words, Tierz has worked with many influential names in the industry. Due to his unique flow and perspective on life's mysteries, Tierz has supported Mobb Deep, Dappy, English Frank, Demeric, Exhibit, and many more. His music has been played on radio stations such as BBC Introducing, Capital Extra, and he has had a single that was awarded number 3 spot on an American TV countdown show, Charged Up Top 10. Tierz has collaborated with Ayo Beatz, Harley, and is in the process of collaborating with Jethro, Alone Star Sheeran, amongst many others. Tierz's journey as an independent artist has seen him perform all over the UK, as well as in places like Spain, Portugal, Scotland, and Ireland. His book, Tierz Behind the Smile, a vehicle for his personal life experience and an insight into his mind, has garnered attention of notable publishers from London and New York. Up next on Celeb Savant, we've got Tierz. Where in the world are you and how are you doing?
Hey, I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for obviously inviting me onto the show. So I am from Surrey, in London, UK.
Why the name Tierz and the spelling as it is?
Yeah, so the word Tierz, it means elevation. So T-I-E-R, obviously is Tierz.
Oh, okay.
And the Z, yeah, so that's where it comes from. And the Z, I mean, it just worked. I mean, at the time of obviously, when I first started my early career, I called myself Young D because everyone's young this, young that. Yes. And obviously I was, sort of unbeknown to sort of the fact of, a name in the industry, especially the music industry, you want to kind of try to stand out. So all of my music, I'm forever trying to push the boundaries on it, which hopefully my career so far has proved, by working with unsigned artists through to some of the biggest artists in the world. And so, yeah, it means elevation, and all my music is real. So I guess, I said once in an interview, it's like crying tears, it's emotional sometimes. And then the guy that was interviewing me said, I saw you cry a lot. No, that's not the score. But it's very much about elevation, and always trying to better myself and my career, to be honest. Yeah.
So it's interesting because I heard Tierz. It's amazing how people have different definitions and perceptions. I've studied it. It's called NLP, Neurolinguistic Programming. And basically, so he had that perception and definition of Tierz. When I heard Tierz, it was like, okay, crying, which means cleansing, which means you're releasing and dealing with stuff, and therefore you're moving forward. And that brings in elevation as well. So I was more on track on your perception than that dude was thinking of just you crying all the time.
yeah. I mean, that's a great way to think of it. I mean, yeah, it is obviously, like you just said, obviously to release. And that's one of the main things that comes from my music is obviously to release good and bad memories that I've experienced over the years. And it's kind of worked, I guess, from what people have been saying. So, yeah.
Okay, now let's rewind. At what age did you just think or decide or feel, cool, I want to be in this business, the creation, music world, and how did that journey progress?
So I guess it realistically started from a very young age. I've always enjoyed music. I've always been quite reserved, I suppose, at a young age. And it wasn't until my nan told me through secondary school to write down your feelings, to express how you feel, and then get rid of them. It's an old sort of thing, isn't it, that many people have done and has worked for them. But when I was writing down my feelings, it kind of just worked lyrically, because I was listening to a lot of music, obviously back then. And some of my biggest influences, I kind of just started like, okay, cool. The writing's helped me very much, but to express it in an artistic kind of way was even better, because not only am I getting rid of the emotions, I'm also turning it into a good thing, because I'm like, okay, well, this rhymes. And then all of a sudden, it was that general sort of, oh, you want to be a rapper, oh my God, you're an idiot and all this sort of stuff. But then I started to create a little bit of friction with it. And it started snowballing into a positive way. So I guess realistically, from a very young age, I've always enjoyed music, but it wasn't till maybe 15, I guess, 14, 15, that I started to make the music that I sort of create these days. And then it sort of went from there in a very positive motion. I got signed to an independent record label, and then I got invited to a lot of shows in London, which was, I deemed at the very beginning would be unheard of, because obviously where I come from and what I had a perception of the rap game being, there's a very big perception of it being gangster, 50 Cent, and I learned the easy way that it's very much not like that to an extent. There are obviously people out there that are about that life, and they make that sort of music. But thankfully, the people that I met and connected with, and the platforms that I was able to get onto, it snowballed into basically now. So yeah, I'd say probably from about 16, and then when I got signed, it sort of went on from there into the bigger leagues, like the festivals and other places that I've been, television and all the other cool stuff that's happened,
Are you still signed to the label?
No, I'm not. So that label, them and I, we parted ways. And then, so I stayed independent, working my way through the motions, meeting different people, working with different artists. I then signed to another record label in Wembley, and they were right next to AR Chipmunk's early label, actually to, big names. And then fast forward to that, I stayed independent, and I got an opportunity to work with Ayo Beatz, and we recorded at Labyrinth's studio. That track, a couple of the tracks then created some very, very, very powerful moves for myself, as an artist. And you've got the likes of Rec 32, Tiny Temper, that heard the music and rated it. Obviously, Ayo Beatz, he rates it, he was producing on it. And that got me onto television in America, onto mainstream radio play, Capital Extra, for example. And yeah, it's kind of gone like that, There's been a lot of downs, don't get me wrong, there's been a lot more ups. But yeah, so that's basically where it's come from at the moment, my sort of humble beginnings up to this point, and all of the opportunities that I've had, I'm still very much in connection with these people that have given them to me or offered me, certain situations. So that's a great thing. Hopefully it'll, develop into a much stronger foundation with those guys in the future, which, by the looks and sounds of things at the moment, it really is going to.
Okay, so let's pause that. Throw out hopefully. It's not hopefully going to happen. It will happen. Let's put it there.
It will happen. Dream believer T, smiling to the top, right?
Let's put it. Let's create it now. Absolutely. For the listeners, what is the difference between being an independent and between being signed to a label?
That's a very good question. I found there's pluses and minuses to both sides. So, for example, I kind of found when I was signed, things seemed to be very slow. The reason for that, I guess, because I'm not sure if people know, but you have different sorts of, deals. Not everyone gets a record deal like Eminem and then blows up overnight, or the likes of Justin Bieber and, all these sorts of people.
Yep.
Those kind of stories come from. So I kind of feel that when I first signed to the label, I felt it was very slow. And I kind of, now that I'm more experienced, I understand that it was because they were building me as a brand. And that's the second thing that I'll get into in a second. But it was also great to be signed to the label, not because of obviously, you get, some money or an advance, which has its pluses and minuses. But also it was very much, there was a lot of pressure because you do have deadlines. Obviously, as a record label, they've got deadlines because they're expecting you to produce. Maybe it is an EP deal, it might be an album deal, etc. But they've got people that are watching them as well. So, they can pass the pressure down on you. You could be in a studio and they might say, all right, you've got 6 hours studio time today. But then the engineer might be there and he might be late, for example, or the producer might not be able to turn up till 3 hours before your session's been finished. So then you're trying to rush things. So then the deadlines are back. And also it's the idea of, obviously, they set things up, i.e. radio interviews, i.e., music videos, etc., which is great. But on the flip side, there again is a lot of pressure because you're constantly having to keep yourself, not only just yourself fit and, in a mental state, because you might have been performing the night before in London, and then you're traveling all the way down to Birmingham, which I've literally done. So with regards to obviously being independent or signed, there are pluses and minuses. I mean, the plus of being independent is very much that you create your own rules, and you make your own sort of luck, whether that be you can sort of reach out to people that you want to collaborate with. You can apply to the shows that you want to apply for. But again, being independent, you might not get the opportunity to work with these people that you want to because they don't, if you're not affiliated with anyone in the industry or, and they might charge a fee, which is very relevant as well. And so you've got to come up with that money somehow, I spoke to someone, I'm not going to say the name, but a friend of mine who's quite well known in London for his music. He signed to a major platform. He's been everywhere, done everything. So to collaborate with him as a friend in the industry, he was saying it's going to cost me £5,000 to get that collab. It's like, damn, But whereas if I was with a record label, for example, they might have the connects to basically co-sign the track and then, make things happen sort of thing. So there's pluses and minuses to all of it.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, it's a business, isn't it? At the end of the day, money is what people are out to make. And there's a lot of it to make, but there's a lot of it to lose as well, So there's very big risks. One being independent, but there also is, if you're signed to a label as well, because you get some record labels that give you a deal, and a lot of the time, you have these advances, but you have to keep the money back somehow. This is what people don't understand. You don't just get given money.
Yeah.
I kind of think of it as almost like a mortgage. If you buy a house, you get a mortgage from the bank. If you lose your job because you're acting like a prat and not turning up to work or doing the wrong things, you get fired. You can't afford the house anymore. And this is what happened. You get shelved, all these different things. So there's pluses and minuses to both.
From 0 to 3 to 4 minutes in creating a song, music, production.
Yeah.
Is it easy every time? What motivates it? What invigorates it? Let's unpack your creative brain.
Yeah. So my idea of creating a track, I have different ideas when it comes to that, to be honest. I mean, I could go through 3-4 months of just writing every single day, and anyone that knows me will vouch for that. I can write tracks, drop of a hat. I've done it when I was at East Coast Studios with some very big, very, very big industry professionals in front of me. I didn't feel the nerves, not a problem. But then there could be other times where I can't put a sentence together that make, is track worthy, to be honest. I kind of take my environment at the time and use that as my means of inspiration for the song. And I also like to start with the track as well. So producers, thankfully, I get sent instrumentals from some great people, and I'm able to use them. So it has to hit me, when I'm hearing instrumentals. And if I've got a vibe, I'm like, yo, okay, cool, this is it. This is the one. But then saying that, it's also who I'm with as well. If I'm in a circle of people that aren't, this might sound stuck up, but if they're not on the same sort of work rate, as me, or they're not giving back what I, sort of give, out to the creative, it's hard because you feel like you're just carrying people, especially when you're in a studio. And if the producer isn't excited, I'm like, well, why are you even trying to lace this track and then put someone on it if you ain't that excited about it yourself? I need some, I like to work and bounce off the situation, and whether that's me writing on my own, the situation, whether it's good or bad, I try to use parts of all of the motions to create the music, and it can again be very slow because when you're working with people, if they're not, say, work rate a lot, if they're not on the same work rate as myself, I get frustrated as hell because people will say to you, yeah, let's work, let's do this, we can do that. So I literally plan myself, right, I'm going to be up in my studio, I've got a studio at home, I'm going to be up in the studio, my kids, right, they know daddy's working, to earn some money and all the rest of it. But then if I'm not getting that track back when, the guy's saying to me, oh, I can have this mix mastered in the next sort of week or 2 weeks, I'm thinking to myself, right, 2 weeks. If it ain't 2 weeks, what's the point of not working? I'm not going to be blowing your phone up every 5 minutes. I don't care about you right now. Do you know what I mean? Because this is my journey.
Yeah. And
you're either on it or you're not. You can either stand to the side and watch me go forwards, or we can just jump in the car and move forwards together. Because we've got some big, So yeah, my creative thing is very, I'm very passionate about what I do and how I do it, and and who I do it with, to be honest, because I've got a lot to protect these days, same as everybody else, you know. You only got to get with one bad person, it makes it look silly, as you know. You've got a great podcast, and you don't want to be interviewing people that are going to bring your name down. So
we referenced NLP earlier, so I'm not sure if you're aware. NLP is called neuro-linguistic programming. That's the way people process information. Dominant, secondary, and tertiary. Dominant means you'll be in it most of the day. Secondary means in it you'll be a couple of hours. Tertiary means you'll be in it about half an hour. They are visual interpretations. So people who are visual create pictures out of what they're receiving information. Auditory is audio. So that means they hear the words, they understand the words, they understand the sentences. It's all about the words in the conversation. Kinesthetic, that word again called kinesthetic. Now that is the energy, the body language, the tone of voice, the emotions. Now focusing specific on music. I mean, obviously in the areas of your life may be different. When you hear music by yourselves or of your own music or of other artists, do you create pictures of what you're hearing? Or do you hear the words? Or is it about the emotion feeling?
I kind of feel that when I'm listening to other artists, it's about the words, I guess, because that creates like an emotion for me. And it creates my own sort of visual, I suppose, story, because I know that artist that I'm listening to that's obviously touched me in some way, emotionally, they've written that about a completely different story that they've experienced, or etc. And I mean, with my own music, I kind of feel that it's very much visual. So I'm always thinking of, the story with the viewer, obviously, okay, how would this work as a music video, for example? Okay. Or how do I see people that enjoy my music, how do I see them reacting to it? So for myself, again, it's very much visual. But when it comes down to other artists, I very much listen to the words. It's art. It's like looking at a picture, isn't it? In the Tate gallery, everyone sees that picture different, no matter what. There's one picture that is seen in 3 million different ways, and obviously with the words of other artists, it is very much, I kind of listen to it in my own way, same as you would with music. You'll hear a love song, for example, but you'll hear it in a completely different way than somebody else's, because you might have just been for a breakup, but then your mate that's listening to it right next to you might have just met a new girl down the pub, and he's all loved up. So he's hearing different words and creating a different sort of visual to, again, what the artist has tried to create. So it's the same as a picture. There's one picture in front of you. There's that one song that you're listening to, but it's listened to in 3 million different ways, and that picture is seen in 3 million different ways as well. So that's how I kind of feel about that question. If I'm honest, that's the best way I could probably explain it.
We spoke earlier about your name, Tierz, my interpretation and the other person's interpretation. When you listen to music by other artists, are you able to relax, chill, and just listen mellowed out, as in that space, or are you unpacking it through your creative and technical brain?
I guess a bit of both, to be honest. I respect everyone that creates music, because I know the process and, the hardship that you have to go through sometimes to just get to one certain level, let alone, the idea of, for example, like Jeffrey Sheeran, a fantastic level, Sophia Baxter, and all the greats that you've obviously already worked with on your great podcast. So I always give it the same respect at that level as I would to a person that is maybe just starting and doing spoken word, for example. So I kind of listen to all of it, and like I say, give it all the same respect, just because out of respect of, I know what the craft is, and the hard work and honesty as well, because it can be very hard to write a song sometimes. And I've had other artists say this same thing as well, because you're not only letting off that possibly baggage, but you're being brave enough to let people know, I've been through this, I'm going through this, and that can be sometimes some of the hardest, well, the best music in the world, but also the hardest to write, because it's your honesty about life, isn't it? And sometimes, we're not, as humans, brave enough to express how we really feel. So I give respect, and I listen to everything. I kind of just zone out for most stuff, and again, just interpret it into my own sort of little idea, you know.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that, because I speak to a lot of people who sort of enjoy music on the periphery. They like their favorite artists. It's not, maybe they're not so passionate. Like, they like it, they'll have it, their playlists, they'll get this, maybe one or thing or the other, maybe go to one or two concerts. And oftentimes I don't even know what most of the songs are about. They don't hear the words. They don't listen to the words. Maybe they're not audio people to hear what the words are. But often I'll say to a person, a Sears song, Chandelier. A lot of people don't realize that, she was an alcoholic, and that whole song is about her being sober. And that whole thing is 1, 2, 3, drink, 1, 2, 3, drink. And I tell them, they all think, oh, this is it's just like sort of a fun song to listen to, but it's not necessarily deep. And it's a very deep emotional song. And most people don't realize that. Yes, there's a certain percentage of the world that do interpret and understand and get their perceptions. But there's also millions of others that just hear it and think, oh, this is a fabulous song type of thing.
Yeah. Well, that's the great thing. I mean, going back to obviously what we were saying about earlier on, like, you kind of create your own idea of the song, don't you? I mean, that's relevant with even like Ray. She has or had addiction problems. And and that's about doing all those. But again, going back to what you were saying, is now obviously you speak to someone, they're like, that's just an absolute banger. Like, and they don't know it's about a real bad time of life,
Exactly.
But yeah, and obviously that's what I was saying earlier on. It can be, that's why I respect what artists do, because you're letting people know about these bad times, which can be embarrassing, I guess. And make you feel like low about what people might perceive you as, if they, but they've turned it into a banger. So, and everyone hears it different, so you understand the song different to somebody else. And yeah, it's good. It's a way to get rid of bad stuff, isn't it? Music. It's good stuff.
So what's next on the horizon? What are the next short-term elements or things are you allowed to give us input into, or the sense? I know a lot of things are top secret, but in the world. So what's happening coming up next?
Yeah, so I mean, I've got a few shows being booked. I'm planning to be able to travel out of the country very soon to perform. I'm working on a track with Jethro Sheeran. Well, I've got a couple in the bag. So we're waiting for that to be released. Hopefully very soon we'll be able to get, studio and do all the good stuff. I know he's very busy. I've been offered a recording contract with another record label. I can't go into the details at the moment because nothing's been. And yeah, so I'm going to be creating like an EP as well with a very good friend of mine. And, we've got videos that are being planned, other interviews. The problem is, there's a lot going on. I mean, even with my filming, I'm in a couple of films, and I've written a book that we're turning into a film as well. So there's lots going on, but it's very much, again, I'm having to wait on other people a lot of the time, which sucks. To anyone that's obviously followed my journey to this point, I do move very fast. I create a lot of music, and I'm going to create a lot of moves for myself as well because I'm passionate. But yeah, there's loads going on. That's all I can say at the moment. All of it positive. I'm just having to wait.
So I think what the key is message here, and that besides all the other stuff we've been talking about, because I'm the same as you, I've got so many elements, and it's like, I oftentimes, and I get the sense you are the same, that we 6 months ahead of the rest of the world, and it takes 6 months for the world to catch up to us. So it just, that whole thing about patience, the more we avoid it, the more it will keep hitting us in the face.
Literally. Yeah. Well, it's like a stumbling block, isn't it? I mean, I'm not the greatest with patience. And it's crazy because obviously I've chosen to be in, a fast-paced industry, and it's still too slow for me at times. Which is fine, because everyone's got life, everyone's got real life to do. I get that. It's just frustrating because when you've worked so hard, as with the success of your podcast, when you've worked so hard on something and you're creating opportunities not only for yourself but other people that are part of your journey, you're kind of like, why aren't we just doing this now? Why are we talking about this?
No.
Why are we just sitting here talking when we've got a recording studio at mine? We've got one of yours, we've got a camera, we've got X, Y, and Z people around us. We've got bloody celebrities around me, for God's sake. Why are we sitting here still talking?
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden, it will literally just be coming out of complete. I had a conversation with a good friend of mine, Jamie from Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Sounds. That's my team. And he was just saying, like, all of a sudden, like, there's this that's in the pipeline, we've got that in the pipeline, this and that. And I'm like, this has just come out, and it seems like it just comes out of nowhere. And then all of a sudden, bang, there you go again, you're off, which is great. It's exciting. But yeah, it is very much, I'm just having to wait for other people.
So you said movie, are you acting as well?
Yeah, so I've been in a couple of films sort of towards the end of last year, just like small feature, I guess. And then I appeared on Channel 4 in December in England. I've worked on a show for the BBC, which is due to be aired this year as well. So I wrote a book that was fortunate enough to get 2 publishing deal offers. And I ended up going independent because they wanted to change the language. So the language, basically, is all full of spelling mistakes and grammar. But the reason for it is the book's written about my own experience with mental health, anxiety, panic attacks, etc. The book very much started off as a diary. So when things were actually happening to me, like the ambulance is on its way or I'm in hospital, all this sort of horrible stuff that was going on, I was writing because the whole idea of it was basically say to other people that are reading the book, like when I say this is happening to me, it is actually happening to me at this time. So now you're going through this moment, you know that hopefully you don't feel like you're alone, sort of thing. So because I know when I'm anxious and etc., it can feel like you're on your own. So I kept all the grammar in there, all the spelling mistakes. So I was like, no, this is my book. So, if you want this, like to the publishing people, it has to stay the same. So I self-published. The book then got into the hands of someone at Channel 4. And they were like, would you be interested in making it into like a small series, like a late night sort of maybe 4 or 5 part job? Yeah, that sounds great. But to do that, I'd need to have a pilot. So this is about 3-4 years ago this happened. So I had to have a pilot. And I didn't realize how expensive filming was. So I couldn't afford it. So fast forwarding on from that, I was fortunate enough to hook up with a couple of guys in the filming industry and, shot a couple of short films, etc., that I featured in, done all right. And then I created sort of a small network of people in the industry. I got to know them, they got to know me, and obviously, etc. So now we're collaborating on creating it into a film. Where it goes at this moment, I have no idea. But as long as I can get it onto the internet, maybe YouTube, for example, and just one person sees it and it helps that one person, that's fine with me. Do you know what
Exactly.
I mean? But obviously I dream big, so I want it to go all the way, and Netflix and all this, and it's definitely achievable. I've got the good people around me, but again, it just comes down to one having to wait for other people because they've got work rates and work life and etc. And also it's money. The end of the day, these things aren't free. So I've just got to get a couple little bits, but everything's in motion. It's all very positive, and whether it happens today or it happens in 10 years, as long as it helps maybe just one person.
Exactly.
But yeah, the Facebook is up to 6,500 followers, I think it is now.
Oh, cool.
For the page Tears Behind the Smile. So yeah, it's all organic, and it's done all right. The book's sold, what he's selling. So hopefully the film will be all right as well. Hopefully we can just get that record deal, get on to the films, and then we can get out to South Africa and have the film release, and
No, remember, not hopefully, it will happen.
Definitely, it will happen. It will happen. Yeah, that's right.
I know if I had to ask you this question in 2 minutes, 2 days, 2 years, I know your answer will be different every time. Not favorites, but top of mind. Your 5 songs by other artists that you'd push play to now.
Oh, jeez. To be honest, mate, you've really put me on the spot.
Or just artists, 5 artists.
Okay, so Ray, I really like Ray. I mean, I know it's going to sound, typical, but I love Eminem. I love his style. I love his flow. I love G-Eazy. Jesus. Ed Sheeran, I like quite a lot of his early stuff, to be honest. Kane Brown, I love Kane Brown.
Okay.
Teddy Swims, absolutely fantastic artist, and one that I feel deserves a lot more respect than he's got.
That's
Adam
fine.
Levine, love Adam.
Adam Levine.
Oh, okay, we're good.
Yeah, we're good. You were going on 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so Tierz, the podcast is listened to throughout the world. As a final message, what would you like to say?
I'd just like to say, everyone just keep pushing, no matter what. If you want to do something, whether it be you want to be a chef or you want to be the president, I'm a great believer in the only time you can ever fail is if you never try in the first place. Because at least if you try, you've given it everything and you
Exactly.
failed. At least you can sit there and you can say, right, okay, cool. Because what I find is the ones that give me the advice have never done half the stuff that I've done, or they try to give me advice. I've never ever done it. But yes, I'd say to go for it, dream, believe, achieve, and just try. Just try, even just 1 minute. Put your hand to something new, experience something, and do something that scares you as well. I feel like you have to get out of your comfort zone of anything. You have to do something that scares you, and if that's to try to live your ambition, great, go for it, because that's what I've just done.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Celeb Savant. Please follow Barrett on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at Celeb Savant. That's CelebSavant.